Within the context of climate emergency, the deployment of renewable energy technology is widely regarded as playing a fundamental role in decarbonisation processes. At this moment of great transformation of energy systems, there are many social actors with various interests and identities engaging and interacting with these new technologies. The outcomes of these interactions will determine the type of low-carbon society we ultimately live in. Academic research has paid much attention to different actors and their relations, including communities, commercial developers, multiple levels of government, NGOs, and social movements. One feature of low-carbon technology, such as wind, solar, and biomass, is their relatively large spatial requirements compared to much higher power density of fossil fuels. This means that our future energy system will have far greater land use requirements, all in the context of increasing and cumulative land use pressures from other systems such as food, water, and housing. In terms of one of the most well-known conceptualizations of social acceptance of energy infrastructure, the socio-political, community, and market acceptance triangle, as visible on the presentation slide, landowners are situated in the middle of this triangle, as key political stakeholders, as community members, but also as economic participants. This is why Schwartz 2020 refers to landowners as citizens in special positions for the low-carbon transition. However, the academic literature has not paid much attention to this role, particularly for the case of wind and solar energy. When landowners are mentioned, this is usually in the context of the payment they receive for the use of their land, which is understood as local benefit of renewable projects. While this is of course true, we may ask if there is more going on than simple apolitical payments to landowners, particularly given their role in the transition. A political economy perspective urges us to examine the power relations underpinning economic relations. The literature on rent can provide some useful pointers as to where we should look, what dynamics we might expect. For example, useful historical analogies with mineral rights and the nationalisation of coal royalties in most European countries can lead us to ask, just as was asked of coal, who owns the wind resource and how does this affect the dynamics of accumulation? This research takes a perspective of a strand of the literature on rent, which argues that we need to understand the specific social and historical circumstances in which the landed property operates in order to evaluate its effects. The comparative research design to understand how different systems of land ownership interact with deployment of onshore wind energy. I compare two European countries, Ireland and Germany. I will start by building a historical picture of the distribution levels of rent and how the relation between landowners and wind energy developers has changed over time in each case. I will then evaluate the effects of these relations on three levels. Firstly, at the community level, how distributions in decision-making power and economic value that are attributable to landowner control of access to the wind resource perceived and acted upon by community members. At the economic level, how the landowners relate to the wind industry and different segments within it, how do rents impact on prices as well as the form and pattern of wind energy deployment. And at the political level, are landowners active advocates or lobbyists for wind energy? Through what avenues do they exert their influence, or are they more passive recipients of rental payments? Ultimately, this research seeks to understand what institutional changes could be made to contribute to fair and rapid decarbonisation.